Welcome to Quit to Win, of the show where we explore the moments people have to let go of destructive pattern, meeting identity, and the internal battle to rebuild their life with purpose and clarity. Today's guest is Limor Bergman Gross, a former director of engineering, 20 years tech veteran, keynote speaker of Lead Dev and CTO Craft.com, a host of From Woman to a Leader, and coach helping ambitious women in tech step into executive impact. Alimo has led engineering organizations across continents, scale team, and navigate the identity shift from hands-on executive to strategic leader. But she does not teach theory; she teaches what actually works inside a fast-growing, complex organization. It's really a pleasure and honor having you on the show, Limo.
Hi, Benaiah. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. So you spent about 2 decades in engineering and partnership roles. What was the hardest identity shift you personally had to make, and what did you have to quit being before you could lead at the next level?
Yeah, I think there are two main identity shifts. I think one is when I switched from an engineer to a manager. So I had to shift from the one who is executing everything to the one who is helping others.
Mm.
And one of the challenges was also I was managing people who used to be my peers. So there was kind of a friendly relationship, and now I was their manager. So the dynamic changed, and it was difficult for me to
Yeah,
kind of see myself as, okay, I'm not their friend anymore. It doesn't mean I cannot be friendly, but they're not my friends. And I have to kind of sometimes have difficult
yeah.
conversations. So that was a difficult change. And the second thing I would say when growing as a manager, to start shifting from being really on top of execution on daily things to thinking more strategically, trying to think about more long terms, not the immediate things that happen, being less reactive and more proactive. So those I would say were the two main shifts.
Yeah, amazing. We just imagine what it would have been like moving from a core team to being a manager and seeing every of your friends. Now you have to give them the roles. Now you have to give them the tasks and what is expected. Yeah, that's really a whole lot. And then
Yeah.
having to shift from there towards the future. Yeah, amazing. So you coach women who are strong performers but stuck before director level. What is actually holding them back? And how much of it is external versus internal?
So I think it's a combination, and obviously it depends on the specific individuals. I would say that a major roadblock is really waiting to be ready, waiting for someone to recognize me, waiting for be told what to do, waiting to be promoted. Basically, being passive rather than active, meaning you're doing your work, but you expect someone to hand you the permission to lead more, to do more, instead of just taking the lead, just solving problems, taking initiatives, not waiting for anyone to hand you the next role. And also self-advocacy, like talking about what you do, making sure you're seen as a great leader, that you're recognized for what you do is another struggle that a lot of women have because we feel uncomfortable with that. We feel maybe it's vanity, maybe it's
Yeah.
bragging. So there's a discomfort in many women from talking about themselves, about their work, about their impact.
Oh, that's really a whole lot. And the moment they just make reference, I just don't know it. Yeah, I think that is not just peculiar about women. Also made, especially those who doesn't like to kind of share what they do in the office and
Yeah.
share their perspective or what they're thinking and or more like where the industry is going, owing to the fact that they're like, I think that's pride. Yeah, it's really a whole lot to actually get to. Yeah, uncle. Yeah, a whole lot. So you have led multi generation remote team across continent. What did navigating those complex teach you about yourself as a leader? That a simpler environment would never.
I think I learned that they need to make less assumptions and be more open-minded and curious. One of the challenges when you lead people that are different than you, that we tend to come with a lot of assumptions about how people should act, what they should say, how they should say it, because we usually expect them to be like us. This is like a common thing for human beings in general. And when they don't behave like us, then we have judgment. The judge comes into play. Why is this person talking that? And a lot of times we make a lot of false assumptions. We think people behave in a certain way because maybe they have bad intentions.
Yeah.
instead of just being curious and trying to assess why the person is talking the way they do, or not talking, or not sharing, why do they behave a certain way? How can you really bridge the communication gap that you have with them? And a lot of times when you are just coming with curiosity and not assuming or trying to put your assumptions, maybe you have assumptions, but you try to put them aside, and really a lot of problems are solved that way.
Yeah, this is really a whole lot, and I think it's just the way you said it, peculiar with every leader, owing to the fact that imagine if you having to kind of lead a team within your comfort zone before, where everybody grew up with a particular standards, a particular notes, a particular more like examples, or like compared to you having to deal with different presence and different culture and different. How fast was it for you before you could actually being able to kind of lead them without actually judging them?
I mean, it's a lifelong process, to be honest with you. I cannot say how fast, probably not so fast. You learn by trial and error. Like I made mistakes along the way, and I think it's a lifelong learning for me. Just nowadays, I think I'm more, especially since becoming a coach, I'm coming a lot with curiosity. This is like I have a coaching mindset, which I wish I had much sooner. I think that coaching taught me a lot about how to come to a conversation with people. So to your answer, it's probably multi-year. I mean, it took me a while.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing, because this is really key, so that at the end of the day, I realize losing just says that, which I think once I have this, the next day, everything needs to have changed. They just make reference to the fact that there's a whole lot of trial and error at the background, and the more you understand this and the more you keep showing up with curiosity, the more easier it is for you to be able to kind of lead other than projecting your culture. So you describe the shift from executive to visionary, leading through influence rather than control. What make that transition so hard for strong technical leader?
Yeah, the difficult part is we really want to deliver. I mean, technical people really we thrive on execution, on delivering, and it's very hard to let it go, to trust other people, to delegate, to really hand off the burden of the day to day to someone else or to other people, because we're so attached to it, and we measure ourselves and our success based on that. And it takes time to do to kind of let go a little bit. And a lot of times also the challenge is assessing our value. It's like, if I'm not doing the daily stand-ups, if I'm not like in the details, if I'm not leading the daily execution, then what am I doing? What value am I bringing? And this is a lot of times gets in the way. So it's easy to escape to the things we know how to do and we excel at, to things that maybe we don't know so much how we do. Like, how am I being visionary? How am I being strategic? What do I actually do? How do I know that I'm successful? What is the impact I'm making? And a lot of times it's not very clear. And no one really teaches you how to do that. I think this is part of the problem.
Yeah, no one actually more like get to teach you this. And the fact that technical people more like they're handy and they know what they could do to have results. And being a visionary, result does not come easily. The fact that you project your vision and it takes longer period of time before you get feedback on whether it's working out or whether you understood it, and what results is actually more like are coming in to be owing to the fact that they are running. Yeah, it's really a whole lot. Also, you speak at Lady D and CTO Craftcom global stage in a field that still underrepresents women at the top. What did stepping onto those stage, require of you internally?
Oh my God! I mean, this is so uncomfortable. First of all, it's very uncomfortable to me because I'm an introverted, I'm a quiet person. So standing on a stage in front of hundreds of people, sometimes even more than 1,000, is very, very hard for me. Very scary, very intimidating. Why do I do it? And a lot of times I ask myself, why do I do it to myself? And I know the answer, right? But the thing is, I feel it's very important, first of all, to my own development, to stand on stages and to do those things that are uncomfortable. So I'm developing myself and my skills. And secondly, is really to be a role model to other women that should put themselves on stages, because there's so many women that are incredible and have so many things to share, and they're not doing that because they feel uncomfortable. So more women like me standing on stages and speaking gives the permission and encouragement and hopefully inspiration to other women to do that as well. So we can see more women in the front line, more women on stages, not just behind the scenes doing the work.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. But actually more like going all out for it. Yeah, you give others permission to do so. Yeah, it's really lovely and very lovely. We're actually more like helping others. So you help women grow visibility without burnout. For someone who has been making themselves smaller to avoid being seen as difficult, what does healthy visibility actually look like?
So first of all, I would say that I always encourage women, not just everyone, just to be who you are. Stay who you are. Be authentic, be yourself, be you. You don't need, for visibility, you don't need to change who you are. And for years, I thought that in order to be visible, I needed to become an extroverted, loud person, because that's what I thought visibility meant. It meant to be loud, to speak, to be more charismatic, to be more outgoing. And I kept judging myself and kind of beating myself in my head. Oh, why am I not doing that? Why am I not like
Yeah,
this person? It's so easy for them to go in a room and speak, and for me, it's so hard. So stop beating yourself up, first of all, because you're wonderful the way you are, and there's nothing wrong with you. Being quiet and introverted, or whatever it is that you are, is a great quality. You shouldn't change that. Having said that, it doesn't mean that you have to be behind the scenes all the time. You have to find opportunities to show your value. And there are multiple ways to do that. You don't have to just stand on a stage or do something
yeah,
like super uncomfortable and unnatural to you. So, for example, for me, as I said, standing on a stage feels very uncomfortable. Also, going to conferences and the whole notion of
yeah,
networking feels intimidating to me. And I found out something interesting along the way because I'm doing that on a regular basis, right? I go
yeah,
to conferences, I travel internationally, I go to conferences deliberately, I put myself in situations that are very uncomfortable. It's a conference, I know no one. So most of the time I just travel by
yeah.
myself. I know absolutely no one there. And the thing is, I found out something interesting, Benaiah. So I'm great at one-on-one conversations. Actually, I can go
Mm,
very deep with people I never met before and can create great connection with someone,
mm.
even if it's just for the sake of the conference. And this is a great quality. So I measure myself by quality versus quantity. So when I go to a
Quantity.
conference, I don't need to pressure myself. Oh, I need to get 100 new connection requests on
Yeah,
LinkedIn or something like that. Like, no, I just want to have a meaningful conversation with someone today. And if I achieve that, that is fantastic. And that's what I do. So visibility doesn't mean that you have to be someone you're not and you have to behave like someone else. So if you're great in a smaller setting, in a one-on-one, just do it and build meaningful relationship that way.
yeah, yeah. Build meaningful relationship that way. Yeah, this is really lovely. And it's owing to the fact that introverts are actually more like a good on one-on-one and having to adopt that. Yeah, I think it comes easy compared to having to start measuring themselves owing to how many connections are they going to get that very. That just remove the body and make it easier for them to easily connect to the feel. And yeah, that's the deep. So after 20 years into tech leadership, what is one thing you wish every leader has understood about career growth that most people figure out too late?
That's a tough question because it so much depends on the person. I would say for women like me, one of the greatest lessons I learned is that career progression is something I design. It does not depend on anyone else. And sometimes people have hard time to accepting this because they say, oh, but it depends on the opportunities that I have and if there is an opening and if my manager will promote me. Well, those things are true. We don't control everything, but
Yeah.
we do control ourselves and what we do. So first of all, being intentional, understanding what you even want, and always pursuing to develop yourself, to put yourself in an uncomfortable situations, to expand your comfort zone, to bring more value, to make more impact.
Yeah.
And as a result, you will grow and opportunities will come to you, even if it's not the opportunities you thought about necessarily. So maybe it's not exactly the position you thought about in your company or in your team. But when you are constantly growing and bringing impact, you will, and expanding your comfort zone and meeting new people, opportunities will come to your doorstep. And then you have to figure that. So I think this is the thing that I wish I knew 20 years ago, or even more than 20 years ago. So I wish I thought more proactively about what I wanted and looked for opportunities to make impact, make myself more visible, and just proactively march towards what I wanted. Because I've done that to some degree later in my career, but at the beginning I was just not really intentional about it. I was just coming to work, doing my work, going home. And then when I felt stuck, I was very frustrated. So instead of waiting to be stuck or waiting because no one noticed you or no one gave you what you thought you wanted but didn't tell anyone, just go out and do what you think you should be doing.
Yeah.
Don't
Wow.
wait for anyone else.
Career progression isn't dependent on anyone. Yeah. You have to be intentional and go all out for it. Yeah, this is really amazing. Yeah, I just take all the burden from having to depend on someone or looking forward to someone, and returning back the burden onto you and saying which everything rises and falls on your actions and inactions. So you have to be very intentional and know what you're looking for. So for someone listening now who has been playing it safe, staying inside, not advocating for themselves, waiting to feel ready. What is one thing you want them to hear today to live with?
So I would latch on the sentence you said, waiting to feel ready, and I would say stop waiting, because you're never ready. You're never ready for the next step. I talked about it several times in this conversation about expanding your comfort zone, about making things uncomfortable to you. You're never ready. If I waited to be ready to become a manager, I would never become a manager. If I waited to be ready to become a director of engineering, I would never become a director of engineering. If I waited to feel ready to become a speaker, I would never spoke on any stage. I'm never ready. I'm always challenging myself and learning and growing and trying to do the best that I can. And that's the message I want to give to our listeners. Don't feel to be ready. Ready never comes.
Ready never comes. Yeah, it only comes into being the process and just discover that, oh, I'm ready this thing. Like, at any point, you will never feel ready to get started. Yeah, just get started anyway. Thank you so much, Olimo. Also, from all this, we would love to reach out to you to connect it together for coaching or to follow you across our various other medias. How can they reach out and where is the best platform?
So there are two platforms I usually recommend reaching out to me. Obviously, you can go to my website, limorbergman.com, but LinkedIn and Substack is where I actually put myself out there, especially Substack. I have a publication there. So just go and read what I'm writing, listen to my podcast, see what I'm doing, get to know me a little bit. So LinkedIn and Substack are probably the best places.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, a reminder that the identity shift is the work, and the visibility is not arrogance, but responsibility. It's one this audience needs. Remember that the table you want is not waiting for you to be ready. It's waiting for you to show up. Once again, it's really a pleasure and honor having you on the show. Lemon.
Thank you, Benaiah, for having me.